about Ramadan. Okay? And Allah Azza wa Jal, He begins this passage by saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum as-siyamu. We've heard this, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O you who believe, fasting has been made obligatory upon you, just like it was made, obligatory upon those that came before you. And then at the end, Allah tells us why. Right? What's the entire purpose of fasting? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can have some taqwa. Right? Now, Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about Ramadan, this entire passage. By the way, how many times did Allah mandate Ramadan? Or how many times does He make it legal to fast in the month of Ramadan? In all of the Qur'an? Just that one time. Okay? And how many times did Allah Azza wa Jalla tell us to pray in the Qur'an? And we still have a problem with praying. SubhanAllah. So Allah knew that, what we have a problem with, Allah keeps reminding us. Ya ayyuhalladhina aqimu as-salata. But when it came to Ramadan, only one ayah was enough, and still majority of the ummah practices it. Right? But when it comes to salah, Allah knew that we needed that reminder again and again and again. Okay? Now, so that entire passage is talking about Ramadan, and this one ayah in the middle, Allah begins to talk about dua. He begins to talk about dua, and that is this ayah. It's the most beautiful ayah, I'm telling you this. It's the most beautiful ayah. Believe me or don't believe me. That's up to you. So Allah says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. Okay? I'll give you a translation of that. He says, actually I'll write it for you. Maybe you can enjoy the Arabic now. A little bit. If not everything, a little bit. Are you taking notes? You can, but just remember, it doesn't have to do anything with what I'm teaching. Okay? Okay. Beautiful. Just magnificent. Oh, there you go. So, wow just means and, or sometimes wow can just start a new sentence. In Arabic we have, in English we have a capital letter to start a new sentence. In Arabic they don't have a capital letter, but a wow can just denote a new sentence's beginning. That's what's happening here. Idha in Arabic means when. It means when. Sa'ala is a past tense fi'l, just like nasara. Sa'ala is just like nasara. But when you have a past tense fi'l, or any fi'l for that matter, that is the huwa version, you may have an outside doer. As long as it's after and it is rafa. Ibadi is outside, it's after, and it is also rafa. Because when you have ibadi, whenever you add a yi to a word, it becomes non-flexible. It could be rafa, it could be nasab, it could be jar. So over here, this is the outside doer. So a translation of this, and when my slaves sa'ala you, and when my slaves ask you, okay? Anni, do you know anything about anni? It's two words. An plus yi. An plus yi. An is a harf of jar, and yi is the attached version of ana. Ana is the attached version of ana. So anni is about me. So Allah Azza wa Jalla is speaking to, whenever you see ka in the Qur'an, by the way, it's always referring to the Prophet alayhi salam. Because whenever you see ka, which means you, Allah is speaking directly to the Prophet ﷺ, and by extension to all of us. Okay? So, and when my slaves ask you about me. Now before I go on with the ayah, this is just amazing. Because many parts in the Qur'an, or many parts in the history and seerah, we know that the Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him a question. And then the Prophet, before answering them, wahi would come to him and he would reply to them with whatever Allah instructed him with, right? Sometimes the Jews came And for example, they said, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. The Jews came to the Prophet and they asked him about the ruh, the soul. Right? Then Allah says, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. And then Allah gave him the answer, قُل. Then He gave the answer, right? Sometimes the Christians came and asked questions. So throughout the Qur'an, you'll hear this phrase, which is يَسْأَلُونَكَ. They come and ask you. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ يَسْأَلُونَكَ many, many different verses revealed. They came and they asked you, and then the answer is قُل. Answer them with ... But in this ayah, it's beautiful. That, Allah Azza wa Jalla, there's so much anticipation and hope in this ayah, that Allah didn't wait for you and me and the Sahaba to go to the Prophet and ask about Allah. He didn't wait for us to ask the question. In anticipation, Allah says, when they come to you and ask you, then He gives us the answer that I haven't shared with you. Right? So the whole script is reversed. Allah is not waiting. It's as though Allah knows that there will come a point in our lives, maybe we're far away from Allah, maybe there are people, our loved ones that are far away from Allah, there will come a point in their lives when they will ask about Allah. And why am I saying there will come a point? Because Allah says, وَإِذَا. You know what in is in Arabic? In. What is in? What does in mean? If. Is there a difference between if and when? What is the difference? Yeah, if is maybe. May happen, may not happen. But idha is when it happens. It will definitely happen, it's just a matter of time. So Allah is saying, when this happens, it will definitely happen. When they come to you, Ya Rasulullah, and ask you about me, anni, the expected Arabic is فَقُلْ لَهُمْ. When that happens, then you answer them and tell them. All throughout the Qur'an we hear يَسْأَلُونَكَ. They come to you and the answer is فَقُلْ. Then tell them. But over here that's omitted. Allah Azza wa Jalla doesn't say then tell them that I am near. He says فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. He directly responds to you and me. To show you how qareeb He is. To show you how near He is. Instead of telling the Prophet to tell us how near He is, He tells us directly فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. I am already near. فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. Then Allah says, which is just mind-blowing, أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِي. إِذَا دَعَانِي. Okay? Ujibu, this is a present tense fi'il because it's starting with an u. When it starts with an a or a u, if you remember from the present tense identifiers, we said the inside doer is I. So who responds? I respond. I respond to the call of the caller. Da'wata da'i. Allah is saying, I am most definitely near and I respond to the call of the caller. This is a mudaf ilayh. Da'wat ad-da'i, light no al followed by jar. I respond to the call of the caller. Idha da'ani. This is a little bit tough Arabic, but what that means is whenever he calls upon me. Now let me tell you some things about this. Okay? We usually say dua. We usually say like a call in Arabic is usually dua. But there's another way of saying a call in Arabic, which is here, da'wah. Da'wah. Now the difference is dua is like, when you call upon Allah multiple times, that's dua. But if you were to call upon Allah just one time, that is da'wah. This ta marbuta that denotes sometimes in Arabic, something happening only once. So Allah is saying, I respond to even one call of who? Ad-da'i, the one who calls. Now let me tell you something about this. Ad-da'i, is that common or is that proper? This is amazing. Is that common or is that proper? That's proper. How do you know it's proper? Al. Now imagine this. There is a person who has never called out to Allah Azza wa Jal ever in his life. And then he calls out to Allah how many times? Da'wah? One time. He calls out to Allah one time. Now he is known to Allah. He is proper to Allah. Even the calling out once, just because he called out once, now he is proper, he is known to who Allah, known to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Da'wat al-da'i. إِذَا دَعَانِي. Allah says, I respond to him, إِذَا دَعَانِي, whenever he calls me. Subhanallah. Right? Like we need to understand the relationship and the status of us and who Allah Azza wa Jalla is. Imagine if you, or may Allah protect us all, but if you had like a appointment with like a specialist, and then he finally gives you an appointment for 4 months after, and something happens and you get traffic, Trinidad traffic, and you're not able to make it at 9 a.m. and you get there at 9:10. What does he say? Does he say, okay, it's okay, I'll take you in my lunchtime? What does he say? Come back after 5 months this time. Right? Why? It's not because he's a bad person, but because he's very important. And he has, his schedule is filled, so he can't see you anymore. But now think about this. Is there anyone more important than Allah? Now, and does Allah Azza wa Jalla say, oh, these are the only 5 minutes you have to make dua and that's it? He's saying, whenever he calls me, whenever he calls me, what does Allah say? Ujibu. I respond to him. Now I have to tell you something about ujibu too. But before I tell you something about ujibu da'wat al-da'i idha da'ani, then this is the part that comes in the ayah. Okay? Fal yastajibu li wal yu'minu bi. And then finally Allah says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Okay? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Okay. Now Allah says, I respond to the call of the caller whenever he calls me. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُ لِي. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُ لِي. You already saw the translation. Fal means then, should. Right? Then who should call upon me? Yastajibu. Ya beginning plus una ending. Then they should also respond to me. But you see there is a difference. Both of them in translation say to respond. But when Allah says I respond, it's ujibu. And when Allah says they should respond to me, He says fal. He doesn't say fal yujibuli. He says fal yastajibuli. There's some extra letters. You see that? Now, again, my philosophy in this course. Even though you don't know everything that's going on here, I still want to be able to share it with you so that you can, taste the beauty of grammar and of Qur'an, so that it motivates you, encourages you to, stay at it and learn this stuff, okay? Now, there is a difference. Both of these actually have the same root letters. Again, I don't teach you root letters in this course, but they have the same root letters. But they are different forms of a fi'l. When we learn sarf, inshallah, we'll learn different forms of the fi'l, and each form has its own nuanced meaning. It has its own flavor. Okay? Now, ujibu from fal yastajibu is a world of a difference. Ujibu has two meanings that is embedded inside of the form, and those two meanings, when I translate it, I should translate it with those two meanings. So ujibu is not just I respond, it's I respond immediately and I respond completely. So Allah is saying, whenever a person calls upon Allah, Allah responds to him in two ways. How does He respond to him? Immediately, and He responds to him completely. Now if Allah says fal yujibuli, and if He used the same form, you know what that would have meant? That would have meant then we should also respond to Him immediately and completely. Is that possible? Can we ever respond to Allah completely? He deserves the best. There's no way that we can respond to Him completely in everything and immediately. That's not even possible. This is the rahmah of Allah. This is when you learn grammar, you think, oh my God, just got saved. Right? But this is beautiful. This form, yastajibu, actually has a different flavor. The flavor in this was what? Immediacy and completely. The nuance that is behind yastajibu li is that they should also attempt and try to respond to me. You know how we said istaghfara? Right? To seek forgiveness. Seeking is a part of this seen and thought is a part of this word. So فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي, they should also try to respond to me. Okay, subhanallah. If it was the other way around, we would have been lost. Because we had no way of responding to Allah. But at least Allah says, He is doing so much for you. He's so much more important than you. And He's willing to respond to you immediately and completely. Then you should also try to respond to Him. Now, I told you that Allah says here, He'll respond to you immediately and completely. Now many of us have a question. Well, someone may say, I'm making dua, and I'm making dua, right? I may be making dua for a spouse, I may be making dua for work, or a promotion, or a car, but I don't see that my dua is being answered. Someone might say, I've been making dua for that beautiful, brand new BMW M5, right? The blue one with the peanut butter leather and the upgraded wheels, performance package, and all of that stuff. I've been making dua for it. And then you go outside of the masjid and you don't see it. It's still that old, raggedy car. Maybe a horse is better than your car, right? More reliable. But you're saying, okay, I've been making dua, but Allah in this ayah says He'll respond to me immediately and completely. Then what about me, right? But the Prophet ﷺ actually tells us what that means. In a hadith, the Prophet tells us that there are different ways for our du'as to be answered. There are different ways for our du'as to be answered. One way of our dua to be answered is that you're asking, and you're asking for that spouse, you're asking for that promotion, you're asking for that car, and you get it. Alhamdulillah. What you asked for, you got. Another way for your du'as to be answered is that you're asking for something, but instead of Allah Azza wa Jal giving you that one thing, instead of that, there is a musibah. You know what a musibah is? What is a musibah in Arabic? It's a difficulty, a trial, a tribulation. By the way, in Arabic, musibah, which means difficulty, comes from the word asaba, right? Which means like if you played darts before, it means like a dart that's meant to go to that specific person. So whenever affliction hits us, just from the word we know that it was supposed to come to us, no one else. That we were supposed to be the target of that affliction. So sometimes Allah says that you're making a dua, or the Prophet tells us that you're making a dua, but instead of that dua being answered, Allah averts that arrow from hitting you. So that musibah was coming your way, but because you're making dua for something else, Allah averts that musibah from afflicting you. That's another way of your dua being answered. And the third way the Prophet ﷺ says is that you're asking away. It's been months, it's been weeks, it's been years you're making this dua, but you still don't see it come, right? But you don't lose faith. You don't lose faith. You know what Allah says in the same ayah, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي, then they should also respond to me. And then He says then they should do something else. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. What does that mean? And they should believe in me. But you may ask, which is fine, that if someone is making dua, aren't they already believing in Allah? A prerequisite to making dua is what? Believe. But it's beautiful. Because if someone is making dua and making dua and making dua and they don't see a result, what happens? Their belief kind of gets shaky, doesn't it? I don't know if Allah is listening to me. Right? People start saying that kind of stuff. But what is Allah saying? He's saying, keep the faith. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. They should keep believing in me. So the Prophet tells us the third way of our dua being answered. And he says that this person, he doesn't see it in this life. But he doesn't lose faith, and he constantly asks till the time that he leaves this world. And then he comes on the Day of Judgment. Comes on the Day of Judgment, and the audit is being taken, and his name is called. His name is called, and he looks at the scales and he sees so many good deeds. It's like mountains of good deeds. He's like, oh, this is probably some other Muhammad. This is not me. It's probably some other Fatima. Can't be me. But then the angels come and they start pushing him. Oh, it's you, man. Let's go. And he goes up. He says, Ya Allah, where is all of these good deeds come from? Because I know myself. It's clearly not me. Where did all of this come from? And then Allah reminds him, remember you were making that dua? And you made that dua, and you kept believing in me, and you knew that I was listening to you even though you didn't see the dua. Well, yu'minu bi, I saved it for later because I knew this day you needed it more. And that person, he's just gonna like, I wish I didn't get anything in dunya, man. Well, yu'minu bi. And then finally Allah ends this, and He says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. I think you should know something about لَعَلَّهُمْ. What is la'alla? Where do you know la'alla from? I know we learned a lot of harf, but if you remember back in the day, inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna, layta, lakinna, la'alla, the harf of nasr, right? La'alla, what does la'alla mean? Perhaps, maybe. So if you make dua, then perhaps la'allahum yarshudun, you will be rightly guided, right? So you know the ulama, the scholars, they say there's a litmus test to see if you are rightly guided. One of those tests is to see how your dua is. If your dua, your connection with Allah is great, then inshallah you are rightly guided. But if you feel like you're only making dua at times of hardship, and when things are good, you're forgetting Allah, then maybe you're not on that path anymore. You need to be ones who are making dua constantly. Okay? So لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Okay.